So, last video cut off. I have a very limited space on my phone, so this is part two. Um, at the end of the first video, I was just saying, I've never regretted having my son. He in a lot of ways saved my life, which is just a totally different story, and maybe someday I'll share that, but that's not what this video is about. Um, so I, I found out I was pregnant. I immediately called my best friend, which I never actually owned up to that with the father. I told him he was the first to know, but that if you ever see this, my dude, it wasn't, I'm sorry, I didn't message you first. I called my best friend, freaking out, of course, and just went to my boyfriend's house. And I remember climbing into his lap and crying and just, saying over and over, like, what are we gonna do? And from the very beginning, he made his stance clear, which is that he wanted to terminate the pregnancy. He said that we both had kids already. We hadn't known each other very long. And with his first child, there was a lot of bitterness there. He had made a lot of mistakes that resulted in him not even really getting to spend that much time with his daughter. So, abortion, I've always considered myself pro-choice, but I never saw myself making that choice, and that is something that I'd said for a really long time. Like, I support other women's right to make that choice, but it's not for me. That's not something that I would ever really feel comfortable doing. But when I found myself in the situation that I was in, like I said, that my partner at the time was very vocal about what he wanted, and that made it harder to think about having a baby. Just knowing that the father was not, wouldn't really be an active presence in that child's life, just based on his history. So I, I made up my mind that I was gonna go ahead with the abortion, as much as I already felt connected to that pregnancy. And I want to make that very clear. I loved that child. There were lots of times that I would just be sitting at my desk at work, and I would place my hand on my stomach and just in my head say, I'm so sorry. And I told my boyfriend repeatedly, like, I really wish that we could keep this pregnancy. And he said, like, typical stuff, we can have another one someday. So really the best talk I had came from my son's father, and he kind of put things into perspective for me, which was that we're still very young. We have this 1-year-old that we are still in the process of, like, figuring out how to be parents. And I also knew that if I had that second child, that it would take away from the child that I already had, and honestly, my second child would not have had a very good life. I know that. I couldn't have emotionally handled another child at that point, nor could I financially handled it. So at 7 weeks and 2 days, I went to Planned Parenthood and had the abortion. And, a lot of people, a lot of women I know who have had abortions don't feel a really big sense of loss. I've read plenty of articles and watched videos online of women saying it was the worst thing they ever did. It was a huge mistake. They wish they could take it back, and they urge other people not to make the same choice. I have to say that I fell somewhere kind of in the middle on that, to be completely honest. It did feel very much like a loss for me, and I struggled with that for a while because I didn't feel that I had a right to mourn because I had made a choice. Um, and that's something, if you are facing the option of having an abortion, or if you've had one in the past, I want to make it very clear that it's totally okay to be sad, and you do have a right to mourn if you feel that you need to. I got a tattoo symbolizing that child. That was kind of my way of, I guess, trying to memorialize him or her. And, abortion is not a black and white issue. There are so many different reasons that women find themselves making that choice. And I'm not really even going to get into all of the reasons behind my choice because I don't need to justify it. Just suffice to say that after spending 3 more years with that, child's father, it became more apparent each and every day that I really had done the right thing. And I'm not gonna lie, there are days that are really hard, like really hard. Holidays are hard. January 25th is a hard day for me every year because that was my baby's due date. And there are days where, I tell myself, like, wow, I killed my baby. And so it can be sad. It's sad when my son tells me that he wants another sibling because in the back of my head, I know that he had one. But even though I feel sadness, even though I wish that things could have been different, I also do feel relief because by making that choice, I made my son's life better. I prevented my second child from being raised in an abusive household, or best case scenario, with a father who was not going to be present. So, I guess the whole point of this video is I just see so many extremes on either side of the subject. Like I said, there are some women who say they wish they could take it all back. There are others who say they never faced any negative emotional consequences. I think both of those things are very valid. But for some of us, it's a little bit more complex. And that's okay. It's okay to be sad, and it's okay to feel relieved. It's okay to feel angry sometimes, but don't hate yourself forever. Because time moves on. Every day, I feel like I gain even more perspective into the decision that I made. And I know that I'll never get that child back, but I did the best thing for everybody, and I truly believe that in my heart. I'm trying to think of a good way to end this video, and the truth is there's not a good way to end it. The way I feel now, I still am very strongly pro-choice, and I also feel very strongly that abortions are sad. I wish that they didn't have to happen, but they do. We need to have that option. People make it sound like adoption is just the easiest thing in the world. It's not. There are lots of children who never get adopted, and I know that if I had kept that child, I would have suffered the rest of my life, because that man just wasn't good. And I feel that I saved my son in a way, because he has everything that he needs. I'm able to provide for him, and he is happy and healthy and smart and everything that a parent could want for a child. And while I'm absolutely positive that my second child would have been just as perfect, wow, I just got a really bad leg cramp. My second child I would have loved just as much, and I would have thought was just as perfect. But we wouldn't have the life that my son and I have now, which is where we have a stable roof over our heads, and we have, we live in a house where there's no fear, and there's, the fridge is always stocked, and, every now and then we can go crazy and go see a movie or go impulsively buy a couple of new toys. And, someday when my son is older, I, of course, will share this story with him. And I hope that he understands that I tried to do right by both of my children. And I did. Yeah. I guess that's really the summation of everything, is despite my mixed feelings, despite my occasional doubts, I did the right thing. And I'm beyond grateful to live somewhere that gave me the choice and that gave me access to a safe abortion. So, just putting this out there, I'm not an extremist either way. Like I said, I think it's sad, but I think it's necessary. And I don't know, maybe I will upload videos about other subjects someday, but today this is just what was on my mind. And one thing I have found is the more I talk about it, the more sense it makes, and it helps me work through it. It's kind of therapeutic, actually. And I don't live in shame of my abortion. I refuse to do that. I am a great mother. You can ask anybody in me and my son's life. I'm not any less of a mother because I chose to abort one of my children. And yeah, life after abortion is bittersweet, but it's good. And yeah, I can still be happy, and it's okay for me to be happy. So this is a clearly very unpolished, not very well thought out story, but it's my story. So, and a lot of women are in the same boat, and if anybody ever watches this who's in a similar situation, just know that no matter what choice you make, you are a good person, and the people who love you will support you, and you will get through it, and life can still be wonderful, and you can still be fulfilled. And if you feel sad and feel like you shouldn't, I'm here to tell you that yes, you suffered a loss and you have every right to mourn that loss. Just don't get stuck. So my name is Kara. This is my first YouTube video, and I don't know, maybe I'll be back.